This morning we're going to begin a new series, and this is a series called I Am Jesus. I Am, and it's a series that's going to look at who Jesus really is, not who others say that He is, but who He said that He is. If you ask around enough, you're going to find people who don't have a good grasp of who Jesus is. You're going to find people who have a very different outlook on who Jesus is than one that you're comfortable with. I mean, right now, if we took a poll across the room, we said, tell me, who is Jesus to you? You would use a lot of nice words. You would say Messiah and Savior and Redeemer and righteousness and friend. And we would use all these glowing words to describe this man named Jesus. But if you go out of these walls and you ask the general public, you're going to hear a lot of different things. Some people will say he was a great teacher. Some people will say he was crazy. Some people will call him a liar. And many people will call him judgmental, without love. People have very different opinions of who Jesus is. And some of those opinions have been formed because they have been in contact with the church, and the church has hurt them and let them down. There are a lot of people in this room this morning who have been hurt by the church at some point or another. And others have come into contact with Christians who didn't treat them the way that they thought they should. And so therefore, they hang that identity on Jesus. Because after all, aren't we the people who are supposed to be here? Aren't we the people who are supposed to represent Christ? And when we don't do our job, and when the church doesn't do their job and someone's hurt, people begin to see Christ in a whole lot different light. And so if we go around the world outside, our community outside, we're going to see that people see Christ as being without compassion, without love. They're going to say that Jesus is very judgmental. And they're going to say that Jesus is a lot like this.
Do you think he can fly?
Shh, here he comes. Well, all right. Now it's time for me to tell you all what you've done wrong since I last saw you. And don't try and hide because I'm Jesus. I will find you. Let's start with you, Peter. You lied to your mother the other day. Andrew, you said a naughty word when you hit your finger with the hammer. James, you laughed at him when he hit his finger. Moving right along, John, you drank too much wine the other night. Not way too much, just enough to make me angry. Matthew, we fell asleep in church, didn't we? Yes, we did. And Thomas, you were slow dancing a little too close with that girlfriend of yours. Let's see, and you, I forgot your name, so you're off the hook for now. Philip, I saw you smoking a cigarette behind that big rock the other day. Thaddeus, I hate to say I saw you stick up your middle finger at someone who cut you off when you were riding your camel. Benjamin, you aren't wearing your WWJD bracelet. Jacob, I don't mind you saying my name, but not after you stub your toe. Frank, you know what you did. I just can't repeat it because I'm Jesus. All right, all you sinners, come with me. It's time to pay the piper.
Man, it was only one cigarette.
I heard that. Look at all these sinners. All right, listen up. Listen to me. I'm Jesus. Listen to what I have to say. I have done many wonderful things. I have healed many people of diseases. I have performed many miracles so that I can tell you this. You're all evil. There is no hope. That's it. Thank you.
You're all evil and there's no hope. That's it. It doesn't sound like the Jesus that we're here to celebrate this morning, does it? It doesn't sound like the Jesus that we gave our life to. But folks, this is the Jesus that many people outside the walls of the church think is real. Because they've seen us judge them. They've seen us not love them. And so they think that this is who Jesus is. We paint a poor picture for others of who Christ is by our actions, by the way that we treat other people, by the way that we hold ourselves. It's not that big of an exaggeration to think that there are people among us who live, our neighbors, our friends, our co-workers, who see Jesus just like that video. Someone who's cold, someone who's aloof, who's far from them, who's judgmental. And what they think is that because they are sinners, that Jesus and all of his representatives look at them and say, you're all evil. There's no hope. That's it. This morning, it doesn't matter what we've made Jesus out to be. It doesn't matter what other people have said about who Jesus is. What matters is that we get down to the meat and we understand that what it is that Jesus said about himself, who he is, and who he wanted to share with us. And so over the next few weeks, we're going to look at the I am statements that Christ made. The I am statements. And we're going to look at how he made these statements to characters in the Bible whose lives truly resemble ours. At the end of this series, in just a few short weeks, we will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that video we just saw is not the image of the Savior that we worship. So today we're going to be in and around John verse 25 out of chapter 11, where Jesus said to her, he said, I am the resurrection and the life. What does that mean? When Jesus says, I am the resurrection, what does that mean? Who talks like that these days? Well, the one who can speak in such a way is the one who's proven his power over even death. And it's the one who showed his power over death long before he got on the cross, long before he was laid in the grave, and long before that stone rolled away and he came forth. Today we're going to be talking about the story of Lazarus. We're going to be talking about the one who raised Lazarus from the dead, who then raised himself, and who seeks to raise our lives to new levels of joy and strength. And so we're going to pick up that story back in John 11, the first verse, 1 and 3. And we meet Lazarus. Lazarus is the brother of Mary and Martha. And these three are very close friends with Jesus. And Lazarus gets sick. Lazarus gets sick. So Mary and Martha do the only thing they know to do. And they sin for Jesus. They found themselves in a crisis. And they felt completely powerless. Their brother was deathly ill and they wanted desperately to save him. So they did the only thing that they could do. They turned to the one that they knew could help them. And they sent for Christ. How often do we find ourselves in that same situation? Sometimes it is sickness. Sometimes it's our own sickness. Sometimes it's the sickness of a friend or a family member. But sometimes it's something else. We find that maybe the job that we've held for a long time is coming to a close. Or maybe we look down and we've got medical bills that are more than we have in income and we don't know how we're going to pay them. Or maybe we realize our family is falling apart and our spouse is talking of moving on. Or maybe it's just a close friend, someone who has been your strength, that person that you can always lean on. And something's happened in their life and they're having to move away from you. We find ourselves in crises all the time. We find ourselves in places where we don't know if we're going to be able to go on. We don't know if we're going to be able to make it. And so often, we're left crying out, searching for hope. These instances can leave you feeling like you have no hope. They can leave you feeling like you're all alone. But we have to remember this morning, hope couldn't be contained by death. Hope cannot be contained by anything. Hope is alive. And hope is active, searching for you. We move on in the story to John 11, verses 5 and 6. And it tells us here that after Jesus hears that Lazarus is sick, he gets word from Mary and Martha, Lazarus is sick. Come, heal our brother. Heal your friend, the one you love. What does Jesus do? Well, most of us think that Jesus at that point is going to just get up and rush to save Lazarus. The Bible tells us something different. The Bible tells us that Jesus waited 2 days before he ever began the journey. Jesus waited 2 days before he ever began the journey to go and heal his friend, to touch him. This is one of the hardest parts of Scripture. When we look at it at face value, we look and we say, why did Jesus wait? Why did he delay? Sometimes it's hard to understand. Jesus saw something bigger than simply the healing of Lazarus. Jesus knew he was about to call him from the dead. No one else around could grasp that concept. No one else could see into the future and know that God was up to something even bigger. But Jesus saw, and so Jesus delayed. I don't know about you, but when I have things in my life, crises that come up, and I hit my knees and I ask God to help me, to deliver me, to heal someone, when I ask God for something big, I want an answer right then. Anyone else like that? Some of you are like, oh no, you're liars. We live in a society, we live in a world where we want instant gratification. If it takes longer than 30 seconds to heat up our food, we're impatient. If there's 2 cars in front of us at the drive-thru, we'll move on to another restaurant to try to get in quicker. We want it now, and we want our answers to prayer to happen immediately. And when there's a delay and God doesn't give the answer right away, we freak out. And we'll begin to doubt, and we'll begin to think maybe God didn't hear. Maybe God doesn't care. The fact is, maybe God's up to something bigger than what we're asking. Maybe He's working in a way that we can't see, towards an outcome that we can't perceive. Because you see, it took hope 3 days rise after the world thought it killed him. After the followers of Christ watched him die on the cross, it was 3 days before they knew the rest of the story, that hope was alive. Sometimes we need to wait. Sometimes we need to understand God hears, God knows, and God works. But He may not be working on our timetable. But hope is alive. So how do we obtain the power of Christ's victory in our life? If hope indeed is alive, and that's here what we celebrate here this morning on Easter Sunday, how do we take that and make it a part of our everyday life? Because it sounds great to say here, and it's wonderful to sing songs that talk about His victory. How do we claim victory in our life? We need to look at this story a little closer. And we need to look at the story, we need to look at all the struggles of faith that take place within the story of Lazarus. Because in each and every character in this story, there's a part of you and I. So many things that are just like our lives. So we look at verse 16. The disciple Thomas. Now we know later on that he's going to get the nickname of Doubting Thomas, but he starts this early on in his career as a disciple. Because here when Jesus says, hey, the time of waiting is over, we're going to go to where Lazarus is, they know they're going into a place where they've been threatened with death if they ever come back. They've been run out of this area. They've been told, if you come back, we're going to kill you. So the disciples say, why are we going to see Lazarus? Jesus said, come on. And so Thomas speaks up with his doubt, filling his heart, and he says, okay, well, let's just go and die with him. Because he's already figured out in his mind, in his feeble mind, that there is no way they're going to make it through this alive. Thomas doubted Christ's ability. And he doubted who Christ was. So we skip on to verse 20. And we see that Jesus has arrived on the scene. And Mary has watched her brother die. And they've placed her brother in the grave. He's wrapped in clothes. He's been there for several days. He is dead in the grave. And Mary is in mourning. And she's depressed. Her dream has died. Because she sent for Jesus, the one she believed in. She sent for Jesus to come and heal her brother. Jesus didn't get there in time. Her brother died. Her dream is dead. So when Jesus shows up and they call out and they say, Jesus is here, Jesus is here, Mary doesn't even come out of her house. She does not even come out to greet the one that she sent for, the one that she knows has the power. Her dream is dead. She doubted that Christ would make a difference. So we go back one verse or so to verse 17. We see that Martha, she does come out and greet Christ. She does come out and talk to Him. But the first thing that Martha says to Jesus, if you had been here sooner, you could have healed my brother. Martha's crisis of faith is that she lost it in the delay. She lost faith in the delay. When Jesus wasn't there in time, her faith stumbled. Her faith faltered. And now, she's doubtful that there's any hope. Now that Christ is there, she's not really sure He can do anything about the situation. These three characters are a lot like us. Like Thomas, we doubt that Christ can do the great and mighty things in our lives that we've seen Him do in other people's lives. We doubt that it can happen to us. And that doubt threatens hope. Like Mary, we get lost in the circumstances we face in life. We get lost when we hear the news from the doctor. We get lost in the bad news that comes. Our dream is dashed. Our dream is dead. And we give up. And our dead dreams kill our hope. And like Martha, we get discouraged when there's a delay in God's reply. When He doesn't answer us right away, we get so discouraged and we think, God is not here. He does not care. God doesn't love me. And that delay can kill our hope. Our dead dreams, our doubt, and delay undermines everything that God tries to do in our life through Christ. And we know better. And so did Thomas and Mary and Martha. We're very much just like them. But in verse 23, Christ says, I am your hope. I am alive. I am the resurrection and the life. And who believes in me will live forever. Whatever it is that we're facing in life, Christ is our resurrection. Our hope is alive because He is risen from the dead. And I want you to notice what He says here. He doesn't say that I caused or I will cause the resurrection of Lazarus. He says I am the resurrection. That's a totally different connotation. It's not that I have the power to do things for certain people and I don't do it. I am the power that makes it happen. I am the victor over death, hell, and the grave. I am the one who can renew your life. I am the one who can release you from captivity. I am the one who can revive your soul. I am resurrection. I am hope. And I am alive. It was Christ that commanded the stone to be rolled away from Lazarus' grave. And it was Christ that rolled His own stone away from His own grave that first Easter Sunday morning. And it is Jesus Christ who can roll the stone away from your hard heart and allow His Spirit burst forth. Because Christ rolls away stones. He rolls away stones that we see that are so big that we don't think they could ever move. The circumstances in life that we don't think will ever be taken away from us. With the flick of His wrist, Christ rolls away the stone. He shines His glory, His hope into the midst. Stones that you and I, with all of our might, could never move. With all of our friends and all of our family and all of our loved ones together, we could never budge. All we have to do is ask. And Christ rolls away the stones. Because He can. And He will. And because He is resurrection and the life. It was His voice that called Lazarus forth from the grave. Lazarus was dead. He had been dead in the grave so long he was smelly. He didn't resemble the man who went in. And yet, with just His voice, Christ called him to come forth. With His voice, He demanded that death let go of his friend whom he loved. And that same voice is calling into your life and mine. That same voice is calling into our life, and he's saying, trust me. Open your heart up to me. Let me come in. He's also calling to the doubts and the dead dreams and the delays in your life that you can't seem to understand and control and have a hold of. He's calling to all those things to let their hold loose so that you can be free. So that you can know His righteousness, so that you can walk in His power, so that you can feel His love, His grace, and His mercy cover your life. He is calling to you. He's calling into your lives. And what He's saying is this: I am the resurrection and the life. In the story, He ends by asking Martha, do you believe? He ends the story by asking Martha, do you believe what I just said? Do you believe that I am the resurrection and the life? And so this morning, that is the question for us. Not that little superficial, yes, I believe. Do you believe? With every fiber of your being, with every ounce of your abilities, with every bit of your power, do you believe that Jesus Christ is the resurrection and the life? Is He your source? If you answer yes to that this morning, today is a great day of celebration. Because today is the day that He proved everything that He said about Himself to be true. And we rest in that. And we find glory in that. And we celebrate that. And if you're here this morning and there's any doubt in your heart whatsoever, today is the perfect day to come and meet the resurrection and the life. Today's a perfect day to come and open up your heart and allow Christ to roll away the stone and pour His Spirit into your soul. Because He did die for you. He does love you. And He wants to work actively in your life. All He's waiting on is for you to answer His call. Do you believe? Put your trust in Him. Place your life in His hands. He is your resurrection. He is your life. He is your hope. He is your dreams. He's your source. He's waiting for you. This morning I want to invite you. Look on the back of your connection card that you filled out. There's a place there for prayer requests and comments and more information about the church, and you can fill those out. But I want you to focus right now on the other side, the point of commitment. If you're here this morning and you've never known the love of Jesus Christ in your life, you would like to ask Him to be your Savior. There's two ways you can do that. The easiest way is to click on this card. Just put a check mark or an X in that top box. And if your information's on the front, we will contact you. I'll contact you this week and I'll pray with you and we'll talk about this and I'll guide you through that. And if you're here this morning, the other option is this, and you feel that God is pushing you and leading you, during our closing song, you can simply come down to the front. You can grab me by the arm and I will pray with you. And I promise you Christ will meet you here this morning. If you want to be baptized, you can check that off as well. The last line says, I will apply this lesson by. It's just a great opportunity for us to write down a prayer. Just an opportunity for us to write down, God, I believe. Christ, I believe. It's an opportunity for us to just say in paper and declare our faith. There's something special about taking something and writing it down that makes it meaningful. One thing to say it, we could say anything. In our world today, we've all become pretty good at lying about whatever we need to, but when we put it down in writing, it's recorded. It carries more weight. So if you're here this morning, you just write down, I believe. Maybe it's a sign to God that you're just reconnecting. Maybe it's a sign that you're reaching back out to Him. Maybe it's a sign you just need to tell yourself, I believe that Jesus Christ is the resurrection and the life. I believe that He has the power. I believe that He's alive. I believe that He is my hope, and I believe that He will set me free. We invite you to record that commitment this morning.